most, driving is just a mundane task between point A and point B. Nothing more. It's the frustration of traffic at 8 a.m. The feeling of sickness on a long ride. The car? Just a tool. It's supposed to be practical, reliable, and fast. But the speed is really the reason cars exist, born out of a necessity to make that A to B trip just a little bit faster. Some have a deeper connection with cars, found somewhere in the bond of man and machine, a desire to be part of something bigger than yourself. It's the extension of mind and body to something more exciting than just another appliance. And these people never cared about practicality or reliability. To them, the only thing that matters is speed. We're born with a competitive nature, part of a biological necessity that has not yet worn off with time. People have raced for thousands of years, and that competition has transcended history and found its way to the industrial age. Railroads raced to build across the country, replacing the horses whose strength is still used as a benchmark for power today. And as personal vehicles became popular, the railroads died off. What once was the quickest way across the country became snail's pace in comparison. The interstate highway system expanded and cars populated every driveway. And the competition between types of transport quickly transitioned into the race to have the fastest car. Bragging rights. Manufacturers like Porsche, Ferrari, and BMW emerged in auto racing, each trying to one-up the other. Building engines became an arms race. Who could build the fastest dinosaur-powered land? So while the passion for cars has died for most, there are still people that are fascinated by racing. The sights, the sounds, the smell of burning rubber and spent race fuel lingering in the air, this is what attracts us to the sport of auto racing. We are empowered by drivers that climb in impossibly fast cars and put everything on the line for the sake of competition. Drivers who know that one slip-up can lead to disaster. And for the longest time, wishing to be a race car driver was just a childhood dream. All we could ever be was a spectator. Opportunities? Limited and expensive. Reserved only for the who's who of the racing world. Until now.
Makes a mistake again. He missed a shift. He's going to spin to the inside turn. He's going to take the lead.
Eli Hinton just got used up there in the hairpin.
He's going to pick up a win after a long winless streak and visit victory lane. And the whole field just needs to get himself slowed down hot in these curves. Up and over. There's Zach Cannon running a tad wide. Great restart here for the 2 car, but also for the 48. He crosses him over. Down into turn 1. There goes the tail. Here comes the 20 alongside. The 13 car gets turned. He's going to spin in turn 2.
Round number 7 of the SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge takes us to the beautiful Road Atlanta. It's also the site of the season finale, so drivers will try to learn everything they can to take the field to school at the end of the year. 2.54 miles of tall curbs, elevation changes, and hot, slippery asphalt stand in the way of 2 more winners tonight. Who gets the job done at Road Atlanta? My name's Kyle Heyer, alongside Finney and Laguna for Sim TV, filling in for the Winding Road Magazine crew here from Road Atlanta. We're also joined by Adam Brouillard from Paradigm Shift. And Adam, welcome to the broadcast. I know this is going to be a really fun event tonight at a racetrack that you're very familiar with. But talk to us briefly about what Paradigm Shift is and what do they do?
Hey, Kyle. Well, we do a lot of things. I mean, Paradigm Shift started with the book series. That was really the primary launching point. And that was just, it's just a guide. Really just we wanted to answer every question racers might have. Something you can do from the cockpit, something anyone can be able to read and understand with enough work anyway. And, then we branched out to training, coaching. Our newest thing we're doing is the track notes, where we have breakdowns of different tracks around the country, and we're even doing actually country in the world, and starting to do reference laps for those as well, which are video laps showing various cars of how these tracks, so how they would look as well.
So, Paradigm Shift, a relatively new sponsor of the SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge, but here tonight we're running the SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge based off of the real SPEC MX-5 Challenge. That's a lot of SPEC MX-5 challenges based in Texas, but we run the NC Miata here, Adam, and what are the differences between this car versus the newer Global MX-5 Cup car that iRacing introduced in 2016?
Well, I would say, the newer car, it's, they're similar. It's still a Miata. It's going to be, the suspension is a little tighter. The horsepower, it's hard to know with grip. I mean, it drives basically the same. The balance is a little bit better, I would say. The old car tends to understeer a bit more, but that could be iRacing's setup, not anything to do with the car. They might be going more for a more balanced setup, which I really like the baseline setup for this for the new car. I think it feels really good out of the box.
And of course, at Road Atlanta, a 2.54 mile road course that's very famous across the United States. I think that American racetracks tend to have a character to them that a lot of racetracks don't have. I mean, you think about places like Road America, Watkins Glen, Sebring, Laguna, Seca, but Road Atlanta as a racetrack has a lot of elevation change, but most racetracks have it going uphill if you think Watkins Glen or even Road America. But here, the primary feature of Road Atlanta is the S's, which we see Paul Darling entering right now. It's all downhill here. So how does the car load up? How do you navigate these downhill S's and keep the car from sliding off the course?
Well, the S's in the Miata, honestly, it's not a corner, it's a straightaway. Really what it takes there is a light touch and not getting yourself into trouble. But most of the cars, they don't even need to go near the limit going through the S's. Really, you just have to be careful. Now, once you start going into the faster cars of the S's, they become a series of chicanes, which actually get quite tricky.
And just prior to the broadcast, we were talking about the turn 6 and 7 complexes, the double right-handers. We're looking at the track map right now at the left-hand side of that graphic, those two right-hand corners. And in between them, on driver's left, there's a tall, narrow exit curb. And prior to the broadcast, you said that most drivers typically wouldn't use that. But we're seeing some tonight so far in practice. What are the advantages or disadvantages of using track-out curbs that are that tall?
Well, of course, anytime you can widen the corner, you're going to be able to carry more speed through. The question with curbs is always, is it worth it? And that is, there's never a straight answer to that. It really just depends on how much grip you're going to have and what you're doing on it. Typically, the curbs there on the real course are, they're pretty bumpy. They're not something you want to hit, because it's a very short, I don't even know if you'd really even call it a straightaway. As soon as you make it to the outside, you're immediately entering 7. So you're not really gaining any straightaway speed. It really just gives you a wider entrance to 7, but you're braking for the entrance there anyway. So typically, I don't recommend to brake while you're on the curb for most curbs, but it really just depends on what the car does. If the car can handle it, then use it.
We were talking also before the broadcast about the track conditions, and it's been a hot one this week at Road Atlanta. 87 in the air, 106 on the racetrack. It's a little bit lower than it was when we first started up the session, but we could see that temperature rise. hot track temps, how much does it affect a car like a Miata, and is it really that big of a consideration if it's 100 or 125?
Well, it's definitely consideration in real life, and iRacing has added a lot of track temperature, air temperature, its effect on horsepower, grip, and I can't really say how accurate it is right now. I mean, I know they're kind of playing with it. It's good they have it though, and everybody is, they're dealing with the same challenges. So, I mean, it's going to change your lines. It keeps you from just going by pure muscle memory as to how to take a corner every single time around. As the track is changing, you have to be able to adapt. So it's good. It's good to have it. I mean, it can make learning actually kind of difficult because is this lap better because of something you did, or is it because of track temperatures? Sometimes that can be hard to discern. But for a race, I like it.
Absolutely, and I think one thing that we shouldn't really get lost on here is the fact that at the end of this season, we're going to crown a champion and give them the opportunity to test one of these cars in real life at Circuit of the Americas, or they can choose to do a 2-day LevelUp Racing School experience, or they can get a track day with full team support at Circuit of the Americas. There's some incredible prizes put on by the folks at WeatherTech, LevelUp Racing School, Winding Road, as well as Paradigm Shift. So thank you for all those sponsors for coming on board. You can find the links to everything in the description. But I wanted to talk a little bit about sim racing versus real world racing and how much you can really apply. Because this is a question that gets asked a lot, and we've asked IMSA driver Tom O'Gorman last week about what you can take from the sim to the real world. But is there more than just applying the seat of the pants feel, as they say, the G-force? Is there something else, like fear, that's missing from the sim that you don't get in the real-world driving experience?
Well, the fear is a question, and honestly, at Road Atlanta, that is a pretty big factor. Those walls are awfully close, but in any driver who really gets, into the zone, I mean, they're not seeing the walls there; they're just seeing the track. They're doing the exact same thing in real life as they are in the game. Sim. So, I mean, from a learning perspective for a rookie, a rookie is probably going to throw themselves into a turn. But, once you get to the upper levels of skill, it's the same thing. Now, as far as, the transferability, racing it's primarily visual. You get the seat of the pants, I would say it adds to it. But if you are using your eyes correctly, in a sim, it will transfer. Now, I would say probably the biggest jump that people are not expecting is probably the sound, the vibration, just the raw feeling of, driving a track prepped car. If you're used to driving when you're sitting in your cockpit, completely comfortable, not moving around, now try and have that same sort of precision when you're being bounced around on the track. The engine is roaring in your ears. It's different. There's definitely an adjustment, period. But, I mean, that's why I recommend, even if you're at the beginning, just try and get out on the track, just a track day, even go-karting, just so you can kind of start, balancing the experience of sim versus track, because there's a lot of transferability, but only if you do it correctly.
So actually, I was going to take that comment and bounce right into a point. I asked driver Tom O'Gorman last time about a quote from Juan Pablo Montoya, who said, I'm going to paraphrase here, said something along the lines of, simulators are useless if you don't treat them like they're the real world. Do you agree with that statement, or is there some false ideas there?
I think I understand what he's trying to say there, but in a way, I actually disagree. I would say the things you can do in a simulator that you can't realistically do in the real world makes them a good training tool. I mean, even if you had unlimited access to a track, I would say simulators are still good. Remember how I mentioned earlier how with the dynamic track, it's good for races, but it can also be hard to work on your own skills. The nice thing about a sim is, most of them, iRacing included, you can set the temperatures, the track, the conditions, the car is identical every time. So you can really zero in on your driving. So if those times are changing, it's something you're doing. And again, I think Juan Pablo is, saying, take it seriously, don't treat it like a game, so that you'll have the same feeling when you go out on track as you do in the sim. But I think you can take that mentality, but then take advantage of the things a sim can do that you just can't do in real life.
That's an excellent response. That I want to circle back a little bit more to paradigm shift driver development as a whole. Of course, aimed at real-world driving, but also talk about its application for the sim and what drivers in a simulated environment like iRacing can get out of a product and service like Paradigm Shift, and can they apply that directly to the real world along with their sim experience?
Well, Paradigm Shift is not aimed at sim or real life. I mean, everything in the books works in both, because all a sim is doing is simulating reality. You don't have the G-forces, and that is just one of the cues we talk about, but it's, in the grand scheme of things, I can't put a percentage on it, but it's less important than the vision, and the vision is primarily what you get in a sim. Especially with the VR solutions now, it's like being there. And so you can train as if you were there. So everything that we teach, it works in both.
It's really interesting to talk to you, Adam, and thanks for coming on board. Of course, you're welcome to stick around for a little while. But just a quick update here. 2 minutes left in qualifying for the race tonight. Take a quick look at our format for the evening. 8:45 p.m. It's coming up in just a couple minutes. It's a 20-minute sprint race with a 15 incident limit, and if you step over the limit, it's 2 championship points deducted. Race number 2 will be just after that, 30 minutes long. Another qualifying session will precede that, and again, the incident limit for this race will be 17, so 2 more than the first race. So, Adam, as we talk about incidents in real life versus the sim, I know you're familiar with a little bit with iRacing. How does that incident system correlate to the real-world environment? And in iRacing, you might take an off-track, you might slide off the course a little bit, get into the grass, dirty your tires up just to get the extra tenth. Is that something you're willing to do in the real world too, or is there some difference there with the risk evaluation?
I've heard a lot of complaints over the years, and I think it's as good a system as you can have. I think it makes sense because, in the real world, pushing it off track, it may not, it might not be a number, but it could be damage to your car, it could be damage to a wheel, suspension. So, you're having to weigh these things that, is it worth pushing a little bit further this lap than the other? Now, sometimes the iRacing limits are maybe somewhere that would be safe, but again, they're the same for everybody, so I suppose it's fair. Although I have always wished that there was some sort of more accurate visual cue as to where these actual limits were, because sometimes you just, you're trying to be inch perfect on the track, and it's, as I said, it's a visual skill, and if you can't see it, it takes a whole lot of laps to find out exactly where that actual track limits are. I would personally just like to be able to see it.
All right, so that's going to conclude qualifying. Adam, thank you so much for joining us. That interview went by very quickly. So if you'd like to stick around, feel free. If you got places to be, we won't have our hurt feelings here, but you're welcome to stick around.
No, I would like to see it. I've been interested in seeing the race.
All right, so we'll have Adam stay here. Finian, I know you've been quiet there for a couple minutes. Expectations tonight. DJ Alessandrini leads the points by 20 points. He's a full race ahead of everyone else. What does he have to do tonight? Just kind of run the race, or is he still pressure to go get some more victories?
I think he has pressure, if anything, to finish the race. He just really has to make sure that he makes it to the checkered flag in a decent spot. Doesn't really have to force the issue. Really, the only guy he's got to worry about is Robert Hartley. I think that's his main rival as far as the point standings go, and Hartley's in 5th. So honestly, if he could just beat Hartley, I think it's a job well done for Alessandrini. I think that's what he should be eyeing for.
Well, so far so good for that number 91 DJ Alessandrini. He's currently sitting on provisional pole with a 1:38.697. That's 19 thousandths of a second quicker than Paul Darling, who's sitting 2nd. Mitchell Peak in 3rd. Jesse Stevens 4th. Robert Hartley, we just talked about him, he's sitting in 5th. Jonathan White was practicing with Jesse Stevens the other day, learning a lot, and currently qualified 6th. His performance has been steadily improving, Finian. Do you think he can go out and get himself a victory? And also, Road Atlanta, Finian, do you think that this racetrack is a good opportunity for some drivers that may not be as quick on the technical courses to use the draft to help them win today?
Oh, I definitely think so. I mean, these guys are almost topping out on these cars going onto the back straight, going at the end of the back straightaway with the draft. So definitely think it's going to help these guys get up to speed, keep up with speed with some of the faster guys in the pack. And we're definitely going to see a lot of pack racing, a lot of packs forming up, probably the front 8 or 7 guys. You'll see them split away, have their own little race. Should be very interesting to watch, especially with Mitchell Peak throwing himself in there in the 21 car with a solid effort in 3rd.
Yeah, which will be great qualifying effort. So qualifying just concluding as the field is pulled off to the pit lane. Again, a 20-minute race about to get rolling. 20 minutes at Road Atlanta, Finian. First lap, first corner, and you get up the hill, and then it's turn 3 is a blind corner over the curb here. Maybe not as tight as Mid-Ohio from the last round, but risk assessment first lap, Finian. Do you go for passes here early, or do you think the draft is strong enough where you can just kind of hang out for a few laps and engage your competition?
Yeah, it kind of is situational. It depends on the situation you're in. Obviously some situations are better than others to try to make a pass. Obviously, you don't want to just completely dive bomb in there. You can easily take out a fellow competitor, get yourself a penalty, as we saw. The penalty hammer was really was thrown down last week. A lot of penalties handed out for contact. So I think you definitely want to be careful. And as we talked about before with the draft, I think you definitely want to be a little bit more cautious, make it through that first turn 3, because that's where a lot of accidents have a potential happening. So I think it's really just a matter of getting spread out early on and trying to avoid incidents.
Field jumping on the grid here to get ready to go racing for about 20 minutes. That's approximately 13 laps around Road Atlanta. We want to give our sponsors, WeatherTech, Winding Road Paradigm Shift, as well as LevelUp Racing School, a huge thank you to coming on board, sponsoring this series. The season-end prizes for winning this championship, and basically means that if they choose that specific prize, one of these drivers could get to test one of these cars in the real world and take their experience from the sim into the Earth environment at Circuit of the Americas at the end of the season. So there's a lot on the line here, a lot to think about. And this is where our season finale will be at the end of the season. So drivers going to have to learn some things here. The conditions will be different. The drivers may be different as well in terms of who they're fighting. But all the things you learned here tonight can maybe be applied later this year. So field gridding up. We talked about the track conditions earlier. 104 degrees. It continues to drop steadily. And Adam, I wanted to ask you, how hot, or how cool rather, could kind of take out this understeer that we've seen so far in practice? Do you think it needs to be a 20-degree drop, or maybe 10 or 5 degrees to kind of pull you away from the understeer that we've seen so far? Stepped away or not, but Finian, I want to talk to you again about how about Paul Darling in this 55? Remember, he just won the SCCA-sponsored SPEC Racer Championship, and he's sitting on the outside of the front row. And what about him getting a victory this season? We haven't really seen a whole lot of that yellow Miata up front, but I think he is certainly capable of winning. You think he gets it done today?
Honestly, I don't see why not. Very solid qualifying effort, obviously, right in second place. And if you look at the times itself, he's only, I'm trying to do the math here, 19 thousandths of a second behind Alistair Drini in the timesheets for qualifying. So that's not that big of a difference. So he's definitely on pace with that 91 car. It's just a matter of really getting the job done. I honestly don't see why Paul Darling can't get it done today. He's got a fast car. It's just a matter of getting past and beating that 91. I definitely think he has a shot at doing it.
If you just joined us, you're about to see the start of the 7th round of the 2019 SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge. There's your event format on the screen once again. Race number 1 about to start. It's 20 minutes long with a 15x limit. Race number 2 at 9:35, approximately. It might be a little bit more like 9:45. 30-minute sprint race, a little bit longer. And we'll have to qualify for that later this evening as well. So field working their way down through the S's. The next time they'll see this section, they'll be rocketing through here at over 100 miles an hour. And we're taking a look at that beefy exit curve, Finian. It's a couple car widths wide, and we're going to see drivers jumping over that into the gravel trap all night long. But that's kind of one of the things about Road Atlanta that I think is so fun. You get these little cars airborne. It's a heck of a blast.
Yeah, definitely, though, it's a trade-off. You don't want to go too far off into the gravel because you could easily loop it around. We've definitely seen A lot of drivers in the past through multiple series get out there, get in the gravel, spin across into other traffic. So you definitely don't want to be the guy to do it, because if you do it on the start, you're going to be taking out a lot of drivers.
Field rolling towards the long back straightaway. They're in 6 and 7 right now. This straightaway we're about to see is going to be where drivers are going to be setting up passes for the entire night, getting that draft on this winding back straight before heading downhill into the chicane. That's probably the primary passing opportunity here at Atlanta. You could probably get something done down into turn 6 if you're a little gutsy, maybe into turn 3 if you can get alongside. But I think down into the chicane, your best opportunity. And the last time we raced it was at Mid-Ohio. It was a pretty tight and twisty racetrack. This is a lot more opened up, a classic American road course here in Brazelton, Georgia. 2.5 miles of historic American road course.
Yeah, it really is a fantastic track to be at, and we're, again, going to be here twice. So 4 different races are going to occur here this season. That's going to be a lot. Drivers definitely going to try to get their practice in for all 4 of them.
Field now entering the chicane, gearing up. As soon as that pace car pulls off, DJ Alessandrini, that bright blue number 91, he's going to have control over the field as he has all season. He's 20 points out ahead in the championship and continues to dominate here. His biggest foe, Robert Hartley, that tan machine, sitting in the 3rd row. Green flag flies, racing in Brazelton.
Yeah, pretty orderly start as Alessandrini easily takes the lead. Some guys duking out behind him, though, trying to get some spots before turn 1.
Everyone trying to get single filed out. This is a really high load corner through this first turn. I hear some contact, some pushing and shoving. I think everybody made it through. I think it was Mitchell Peak in the 21 making contact with Hartley in the 03 as they head to the top of the hill, looking from above. Oh, look at that 22 car. That's Jonathan White. He gets turned into turn 3, slides over the curb. That's going to be a cut course. Does he save it? He does. An incredible job as they head down the hill.
Yeah, fantastic job indeed. Almost spun back into the field, but he's going to keep it going straight. However, he's being hounded by several other drivers.
That's Nathan Saxon in the 41. Got some big damage to the nose of that car as they all somehow make their way down to the bottom of the hill and don't wad it up. It was about to be a lot worse than it was. Meanwhile, out front, Alessandrini by 0.3 of a second. The front 4 broken away. Then it's Mitchell P. Chris Henn, the postman, in the number 33, 6 at the moment. He's all over the back of that 21. They need to keep touch with these front 4, otherwise they're going to get to pull away.
Yeah, and this is really where these packs start to form here. You want to make sure you're up with them. You see Henn getting already a run on the 21 of Mitchell Peak. He wants to get on by, stay with the leaders.
For Jonathan White, a disastrous start. Got turned in turn number 3 off the nose of another car. I couldn't catch quite who it was, but...
Oh, and he's slow.
Yeah, he's definitely off the pace, either still serving a slowdown or something. Meanwhile, Chris Henn has gotten around the outside of Mitchell Peak as they head to the chicane for the first time. Michael Borden, he wasn't even planning to race tonight, but he is here. He's in 7th and trying to get past both these cars. That would put him in 5th if he could. It's Chris Henn moves into 5th.
Yeah, solid job by Chris Henn. Moves himself up a spot. Oh, Borden wants a spot. Wow, Peak puts him in the grass.
Wow, that was a tense moment there. DJ Alessandrini will lead lap number 1. Paul Darling, Jesse Stevens pops out of line. Stevens did a lot of practice this week gearing up for this race as we cross the line for the first time. Ticker at the top of your screen showing you the running order of everyone in this field. For 2nd place, Darling gets passed by Stevens, slides across the nose of as they head up the hill.
Yep, and Paul Darling's going to give it to him again. It's a lot of give and take early on. Don't want to get yourself in a sticky situation.
Chris Henn took a big chunk out of that curb at the top of turn 3. We talked pre-race about how you can get a lot out of that. You can cut that quite a bit, but you don't want to get too greedy there. You'll lose a lot of time. As we watch the rest of the field come down the hill, Jonathan White has come down to pit lane with damage on that car. Disastrous start for that number 22. Leader DJ Alessandrini leads by half a second, Finney. In the draft here, about 1 to 1.5 seconds. You can get even a little bit past that. So Jesse Stevens needs to keep that gap close enough. Meanwhile, behind, I see Mitchell Peak and Michael Borden. They're still fighting for 6th here, Finney. That 42 is pretty quick right now.
Yeah, he's really fast. Peak's been kind of dropping back ever since the start. He's fallen from 3rd to 6th, potentially 7th here as Borden gets a run on him.
And Borden from Milwaukee, Wisconsin takes a look to the outside of the 21 as they head down the hill. Started 9th, he's already up 2 spots looking for a 3rd. And he races club and regional level racing in the real world, so he's been around the block a few times. Inches between them as they head down the hill.
Yeah, Borden with an advantage here. Not enough to clear Peak. They're both going to be side by side, and Peak's going to give it to him.
Wow, 42 power move on the outside lane gets the spot away. Behind, it's Luke Pfeiffer, Nathan Saxon. Saxon with all that nose damage on the front of his car. He got into the back of somebody pretty heavily, and that front end arrow, I mean, thankfully this isn't a GT3 car, Finney, and it's a Miata, but you certainly want to have the car as streamlined as you can.
Oh yeah, absolutely, especially considering how long these straights are. It's going to hurt you more and more as you get to a higher and higher speed, so want to keep these noses clean. You want to make sure you have it clean by the end.
They head up the hill for the third time now. It's Alessandrini over 2/10. Jesse Stevens trailing behind. Then it's Paul Darling, Robert Hartley, your top four. Chris Henn trying to close back in on that the front four group there. And of course, Alessandrini's been hard to beat all the way this season. But look at Stevens. He's closing this gap. He can come for the lead here in a second.
Yeah, it definitely is. He's trying to get a look on Alessandrini, but it's just not enough. This is going to be a hard thing for Drew. And, you know, you said it, we've talked a lot about when do you wait to make that final move, and it kind of depends on the track you're at. So we'll see how long Stevens decides to ride behind Alessandrini. We've definitely seen this 13 has the pace.
And if you're Jesse Stevens, I mean, do you let that 91 stay in the lead for any time at all? I mean, my concern is that if you make a mistake, DJ's gone. And I think you want to get in front of him, you know, just to keep him behind you, so that if you make a mistake, it's not immediately obvious that he's just going to drive away. And here comes the 13, going to push him down the back straight, takes a look to the right, but not a hole there. I think he'll sit here for now. What do you think, Finian? Should he go for this pass, or do you think he should just wait till the last lap?
Honestly, I mean, I feel like in the past, a lot of guys have waited for the last few laps to no avail. I honestly think he should at least try to make a pass on that 91. I mean, it can't really hurt him that much.
Nathan Saxon in the 41 has dropped back a couple spots. Thomas Bresci in the 24 has had a rough couple of weeks, Finian, had got involved in some collisions that were not of his doing. Sits 10th right now after he started in 11. So he's only up one spot, but has a lot of cars ahead that he can still get by as we watch Robert Hartley, Chris Henn. Chris Henn, the postman's found his way up to Hartley in that 0-3. Maybe he'll take a look into turn 3.
Yeah, Henn's done a great job getting himself in this lead pack of 5 cars.
Oh, DJ off the racetrack just a little bit on track out in turn 3 and drug the wheels off the course, got some dirt on the tires, and now look at that front 5, all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blue, purple, yellow, tan, teal.
Yep, all the colors of the rainbow in the front, and you see Stevens. It looks like Stevens is trying to get some clean air to his nose, maybe try to get a line on Alessandrini, but hasn't really made an attempt yet. Oh, gets very close to him, though.
You got tan in your rainbow?
I mean, sure, why not?
Leaders, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's actually dragging the 6th place Michael Borden back into the fight. He's within drafting distance, and now it's going to be a 6-car fight as they enter the back straightaway. I heard Jesse Stevens tell me the other day that he didn't think anyone would break away tonight. So far, we're seeing that pack all stuck together. I don't know how long it's going to stay like this, but right now it looks like it's going to be the way to go. 13 and a half minutes left in this 20-minute race.
Yeah, I think it's going to stay together as long as no one makes a mistake. As soon as someone makes a mistake and guys start checking up, that's when we're really going to see it get disoriented.
All right, so now it is officially 6 cars as Borden has caught the back of Chris Henn. Working through the chicane, the uphill section. It's all about carrying momentum in these cars. Not a lot of power to speak of. Adam, Miatas are relatively low power, we know that, but, you know, in terms of gear selection here, do you think it's better to stay in a higher gear and not shift as much, or stay in lower gear and more in the power band and maybe give up time while shifting?
Well, the Miata, I believe, it doesn't have a dropping power band. So theoretically, you want to be in the lowest gear possible. The main question is how long are you going to be in a gear and the amount of time it takes to shift. This is not a double clutch instantaneous shift here. We have to take the time to do it. So are you going to lose more time? Generally in a car like this, I would say, you know, if you're going to be in a gear for less than a second or two, just go ahead and stay in the higher gear. Don't downshift for a corner if you're going to have to immediately upshift as soon as you pass the apex.
Excellent. Brian Cheney in the 05, he just got booted off the racetrack. He was racing Jack Sanchez in the 23. He got turned off the nose of the 23. He went for a loop and collected the 23, and I think that was the 50, was that 57? I didn't see what that other car was involved, but there might be some stewards looking at that incident there, Finian.
Yeah, that definitely might be. We've seen they're not afraid to make a call and hand out penalties, so we'll keep an eye on that situation as it develops. 12
minutes left in this race. We've completed 4 laps. We're on lap 5 of about 13 in this race. Paul Darling takes the nose out of line. Took a look at Paul Darling. Ooh, there was some contact between Hartley and Henn. I don't think Chris Henn's going to sit there in 5th for too long. I think he wants to go forward, but where do you go?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much from the looks of it, the only real place you can make a pass are honestly turn 6 and the chicane on the back straightaway. I think that's really the only real good passing opportunities.
Oh, Jesse Stevens continues to look at DJ Alessandrini, trying to maybe force him into a mistake, but again, I think right now I guess I'm going to use Darrell Waltrip's term, coopetition. I mean, they're all competing with each other, but working together at the moment. Mitchell Peak in 7th is trying to close in on that front group of 6, and they're just continuing to drag more cars into this because they're really not going that much faster in the pack because they're all checking each other up.
Yeah, and actually, Alessandrini, he went wide in turn 3 again. He's actually been going surprisingly wide, and Stevens has been keeping much tighter line as he has a look on Alessandrini, not enough to get alongside, but I don't know. Alessandrini's driving not looking as clean as the 13 at the moment.
He's certainly getting very creative using the off-road sections of the racetrack. Well, he was competing last night in the Grid Life Stadium Super Truck Series and was using all sorts of off-track tricks there. Unfortunately, won't work here. Now, keep in mind the incident limit as we have a battle for the lead on the back straight. These guys, if they get over 15x, they're going to lose 2 points in the championship, but for guys like DJ, probably doesn't matter. Jesse Stevens on the outside. He's going to take the lead away, but is he going to be able to clear the 91? Everyone's getting in line behind the 91 here, Finney, and I think they're going to help DJ Alessandrini.
Yeah, I think they want to... Oh, and actually, it's not going to do anything. Stevens takes the lead before they even get to the corner. How about that? Great move by the 13.
Paul Darling almost got shuffled back by Hartley, but Jesse Stevens takes the lead away. Power move around DJ Alessandrini on the outside, heading into the chicane. 10 minutes left. We're about halfway through this race. Stevens leads the way in that purple Miata.
Yeah, great move. We'll see how Alessandrini responds. He's shown that he's not afraid to be aggressive and take the lead back, so we'll see what that 91's got up his sleeve. Maybe even Hartley if he's going to try to do some, or Darling, since the lead's been swapped here.
All right, so Adam, one of the things we talked about the last couple of weeks was waiting to the last lap to make a move, and Finian said that hasn't really been fruitful. People have been waiting too long. So in your mind, when the field is all bunched up like this, when do you make your move if you're third on back?
Third on back, I mean, the problem with Road Atlanta is that back straight is so long, it's hard to break away. So it almost becomes a counting equation where you're trying to figure out, if you're changing leads back and forth, exactly when you will be in first place. Because if you get in front, all of a sudden they have the draft on you, they're back in front. Sometimes it is better to just kind of wait it out, maybe wait for a mistake and an opportunity rather than forcing a pass that is probably going to get forced back on you the next lap. It really just depends. I would say if you feel like you're faster than the driver in front of you, go for the pass. But if you have to force it and you're about equal, you might want to wait for a better opportunity.
So wait for a better opportunity is the consensus there. DJ Alessandrini sits in second place. It's an unfamiliar place for him to be after he's won. He's actually tied for most wins with another driver, Matt Busa, who is not here tonight, Finian. So that's going to be a hit. Busa was climbing the point standings after winning. He actually is tied for most wins alongside DJ Alessandrini, but going to be absent tonight. We have a relatively small field, only 17 drivers. So what that means is that Busa might not lose as many points as he could have, but he's certainly not going to be climbing his way any higher tonight.
Yeah, he's currently 8th in the standings, and as you said, well, if anything, would drop some more after tonight. Hopefully he doesn't, because he's been having a hell of a run. I mean, when you tally it up, Busa and Alessandrini account for 2 out of the 3 wins in this series this season so far.
Alessandrini took a look at Stevens at the bottom of the hill, but couldn't do anything with it, so he's going to have to gear back up and draft again. And this is an interesting position for Alessandrini, because typically he's leading at this stage in the race, so this is an interesting place for him to be. Paul Darling sitting behind him. If they could just put DJ behind another race car, he could severely limit his chances to win. Hartley, under attack from Hen. Hen goes to the outside between turn 6 and 7. And Hen going to maybe try to cross him over on the corner exit. They both get up on the exit curb. Here he comes to the outside. And he's going to get there. Maybe a little bit of a side draft. These cars aren't super aero dependent, but any little bit helps. Borden in the 42 following. Where does he go? Which line does he choose?
Yeah, and actually Stevens did a little bit of a side drafting to try to get a run. And now he's got Darling pulled out in front of the 33, so that's only going to help Hen out as he's going to get a huge run now on Hartley, who has no draft help from the guys in front.
For the top spot, though, I see some action up towards the front, and it's DJ Alessandrini looking to the outside, couldn't do it. Meanwhile, for 5th place, Hartley gets passed by Chris Hen for 4th. Meanwhile, Mitchell Peak and Luke Pfeiffer, they're side by side through the chicane behind him. Mitchell Peak runs a little bit wide in that red number 21, and Pfeiffer's going to try to fight back on the inside. Nathan Saxon, Thomas Bresci trailing as well. For the lead, though, DJ Alessandrini back to the inside as they head towards turn 1.
Yeah, let's see who backs out here. It's going to be Stevens giving the 91 the line, but will it be for now? Alcerini goes wide. Here comes Stevens back as they approach turn 3.
Crossover move there, but he's going to have to get single file for turn 3. And this is kind of the back and forth that Adam was talking about. You know, it's a mathematical calculation. What lap am I going to be in the lead, and how do I need to set myself up for it? But right now, Finian, it looks to me like they're just kind of going at it hard. I don't think it's very planned out there. They're just going at it, and maybe Stevens will try to make another pass on the back straight here.
Yeah, they're both racing really aggressively now compared to the first few laps of this race, and I'm sure Paul Darling is loving it behind, although now Darling's under attack by Hen. Hen's going for it on the outside of Darling.
Chris Hen, the postman, on the outside of the 55 through turn 6. He runs wide over the edge of the curb, but he somehow keeps it straight, and he's going to be door-to-door through turn 7, climb the exit curb on exit, and now he's going to be in the draft of the 13 of Jesse Stevens. He's the third, a power move by that 33 Chris Hen. What a move there.
Yeah, great job using momentum on the outside lane, trying to pinch that 55 in. Did a great job, secure that third spot. This 33 is on the move. He's a man on a mission.
Paul Darling under attack now from Robert Hartley. Hartley goes to driver's left on the back straight. He's in prime position to pass down here in the chicane, but at Road Atlanta, Finian, sometimes you'll find that you want to be on the right, because that right-hander in the chicane seems to be more important than the left, but Hartley dives up the inside. He'll complete the pass before Darling even gets a chance to defend. Meanwhile, Chris Hen had lost a little bit of ground to Stevens and Alessandrini. Making that pass, he's got to close that back up because those front two are half a second out front.
Yeah, I think they should be able to, but, you know, if they keep fighting at it, if Hartley makes a pass on Hen, they might lose it, but up for the front again. Stevens with a run on Alessandrini. It's not going to be enough. He's going to back out of it.
Oh, this is getting really dicey here. About 4 laps to go. 4 minutes and 51 seconds remaining in this race as they climb the hill for the 10th time. These guys are racing for the opportunity to race in the real world. So everything matters right here, right now. This is, again, the racetrack that we will be at for the season finale here in a couple months. They're trying to learn everything they can about their competitors and the racetrack. Look at them all. They're using the curb so much that they're kicking up the dirt behind the curb, digging up the ground. Meanwhile, Paul Darling has slipped to 5th. Borden now taking a look at that 5th spot.
Yeah, Borden's been on the attack. And how about Borden, too? Right now, he's tied for his highest finish, which was 6th at Laguna Seca. He's trying to get himself his first top 5 of the season.
33 using the exit curb between turns 6 and 7 again. And he slides out too wide on the exit. He's going to get under attack now from Hartley as Hartley tries to get fired back up underneath the bumper, but he couldn't get there. So a mistake by Chris Hen, but they're losing time to those front two.
Yeah, actually, although I am surprised, I thought he would have lost a lot more time. Did a great job not spinning out or losing a lot of time out on the grass, although I'm sure he doesn't want to do that again.
Here comes Jesse Stevens again with the big head of steam down towards the corner. Are we going to see a pass here, or will he wait? Not close enough. Those front 6 cars just nose to tail, but Stevens and Alessandrini, Alessandrini drops the tire off the left-hand side of the curb heading up the hill. And that lead that they had is beginning to dwindle. About 3 minutes and 20 seconds left. It should be about 3 minutes or 3 laps worth of racing as well.
And behind them, Thomas Bresci trying to muscle his way past Nathan Saxon. They make contact. Bresci in the wall hard.
Big impact for the 24. Slams the concrete retaining wall, and that'll definitely be a retirement for the 24. Limping. Bad damage for the 24. Here's a quick look at how it happened. He was fighting the 41 of Nathan Saxon. He came through the final corner. He clipped the curb on the inside. Saxon got loose on the exit curb and just turned the 41 into the fence.
Yeah, Saxon, I was looking at his line, just ran a little bit over the curb into the grass, and I think that's where he lost his traction. And unfortunately went right into the 24.
Huge impact for that 24. That'll be the end of his night. Oh, he crashed again down at the, I think that's the top of the hill, so that's probably frustration there for him. Meanwhile, let's check back in with the leaders. Alessandrini, Stevens, Hen, still your top 3. It's going to be coming to 2 laps to go this time by.
Yeah, and also that incident between Bresci and Saxon is called under review, but I think to Bresci it's probably not going to matter at this point.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, what does the penalty do for you? I mean, maybe you could penalize the driver for the start of next race, but we haven't seen penalties carry over from race 1 to race 2 at all. It's mostly been in race. Meanwhile, look at Chris Head with a huge head of steam. Here he comes on Jesse Stevens.
Yeah, and here comes a huge fight, and side by side into the chicane. Stevens is gonna get it by a hair over Alessandrini. Alessandrini really didn't want to give it that spot.
That was really tight there. The 13 slid across the nose of the 91 on corner exit, but Jesse Stevens controls this race. We will have 2 more laps of racing. Ooh, it's gonna be really close. A minute 42 left. Minute 41 across the line. Yes, we'll have 2 to go, but just barely. Side by side.
Yeah,
oh man.
Yeah, oh man, indeed. Allison Jr. to the outside. He's not backing up. They go side by side into turn one. First time we've seen that. Stevens just clears a 91, and he's going to do a switchback on Stevens. Doesn't get a run going to turn three.
Chris Henn trailing from behind, waiting for these guys to get together. They jump the curb through turn three. He's got Hartley and Paul Darling and Michael Borden right behind him, but he's all trying to size up those front two drivers as they head down the hill, using the gravity to accelerate towards turn five.
These guys racing it like it's the last lap. We still got 2 to go. Really aggressive at the moment here. Let's see, what has anyone got up their sleeve through 6 and 7 to set up for the back straightaway?
Remember, if they spend too much time fighting, the time will expire, and this will be the checkered flag lap, so we have yet to see if this will officially be 2 to go or 1 to go yet. So as they come through, they cross the line with 1:40 left. They've been running 1:39s, so it's going to be really close. Whoa, Borden way out of the exit of turn 7 in the dirt.
Yeah, also update on the situation between Saxon and Bresty. Saxon did get a pass-through penalty for what happened.
Penalty for the 41 to Nathan Saxon for avoidable contact. Meanwhile, Chris Henn goes for second on the outside of DJ Alessandrini. They head down the hill towards the final corner and what should be the final lap. They have 25 seconds remaining on the board here, and if they get to that start-finish line before it expires, they'll have 1 more lap to go. Alessandrini back to the inside of Henn. Side by side for second, Jesse Stevens leads the race, and he's growing the lead every single second. The 91 gets turned. He spins at the top of the hill. He's out of the race. DJ Alessandrini goes from second to sixth in just 1 moment. Stevens and Henn all out in front now. White flag, 1 to go.
Yeah, it's all on now, and then I remember I said an incident would separate these guys out a little bit. Indeed, it has a little bit of breathing room for Stevens, although he can't wait for long. We've seen Henn, probably one of the fastest guys in this race. He's right behind the 13 and has got a complete draft and no one else behind him.
It's half a second, the lead that Jesse Stevens has, but that can be evaporated almost instantly with the draft down the back straightaway. Chris Henn closing, known as the postman in this series, for sending it up the inside. He's going to have a couple more opportunities. Paul Darling, Robert Hartley, Michael Borden, they smell blood in the water. They are coming through turn 5 over the curbs. Here comes the 33 of Chris Henn.
Yeah, you see Henn just flooring it over the curbs there. He's giving it everything he's got. 6 and 7, we see he's fantastic at setting up these corners for the back straightaway. What does he do here?
Right on the bumper of Jesse Stevens. It's all going to come down to the final straightaway. They're all over the exit curb in turn 6 and 7. Now over the curbs in turn 7, they're going to head onto the back straight. It's a drafting fight now. It's NASCAR time. We might as well be at Talladega.
Yeah, indeed, we might as well. Stevens is defenseless. There's nothing he can do but bob and weave. Henn is getting all the draft he can on that 13. You bet he's going to make a move.
Down the back straightaway, you get 1 defensive move. You can't move back to the line once you choose it. Stevens goes right at the middle of the road now, drifts to the right. Chris Henn's going to have a big head of steam. Where does he go? Here comes the 33, Chris Henn to the inside down, and a big block with the 13 to make contact.
Yeah, they make contact indeed, but Stevens, he misses his mark in the corner. He's going to have to cut through the grass. Henn takes the lead there.
3 wide for second place, but Chris Henn out in front. Stevens drops back very quickly. Still 3 wide for second place. Chris Henn comes through the final corner. He's going to win race 1 at Road Atlanta. Second place, side by side, Borden and Hartley. To the line, who's it going to be? It's going to be close.
It's Borden, wow.
Wow, it was so close. By 26 thousandths of a second.
How about that?
That was a finish.
Michael Borden in second place. Great job for him.
DJ Alessandrini's going to limp home in 9th place. Big damage on that car. He might have had another issue. Nathan Saxon in 10th. But Chris Henn, how about that, Finian?
Whoa! It actually crossed the line. Oh, wow!
What?
Alessandrini got passed at the line by
man.
Saxon dirt tracking it on the outside of the corner.
Whoa, look at that move. That was wild.
That's a rallycross move right there, and he got the spot. How about that? Great job for Saxon.
Yeah, DJ Alessandrini hurting badly. Here's another look at that as they come across the line by 27 thousandths of a second. So for second place, rather, it was 26 thousandths of a second, and for 10th, 27 thousandths of a second. Okay, well, let's take a quick breather here for a second. Adam, is that not the craziest stuff you've ever seen?
Yeah, I mean, it was just like watching a real race. It was, I mean, that's, Miata's lot. And this is a drafting track. They stayed right close the whole time. It's just so hard to break away when you have a pack chasing you. And, that just, came down to the very last moment. And anything can happen when you have a pack like that. And it did this time.
That was some spectacular stuff. And I think that was probably the most exciting last lap we've had all season. I can't think of another race that was that close. Let's go back and take another look at the Chris Henn opportunity on the leaders as they were coming down through the final corner. I wanted to see one more time, what happened to the 13? So the 13 also throws a pretty big block here as well, Finn. Do you think that'll get reviewed?
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it did, because I don't know.
Yeah, let's go back and look at this from the aerial view again. Remember, you get one move, and the question is whether or not Jesse Stevens made two. So he's established himself on the right. And was this in defense of the 33? I would argue yes, but we'll see how they rule on that. A big block didn't really end up mattering because he overdrove the corner, locked up, and slid off. And then he could not get that car back under power as the 33 came through the final corner. And then behind him, absolute chaos, 3 wide down the hill. I know the racetrack's wide enough, but the racing line isn't really supposed to be that wide. And across the line, there's that battle for second place. Wow. Take another look at your results before we're going to head to break. And, of course, Chris Henn won the race by just under a second, 9/10. Of course, for Thomas Bresci, another heartbreak there. Every single week, it seems like he gets involved in something that he didn't cause, Finian, but the bad luck continues for the 24.
Yeah, it really is unfortunate because it's clear at this point, it's nothing he's done. It's pretty much mostly been himself just getting caught up in really unfortunate situations, none of his own doing. So hopefully one of these weeks he can catch a break because we know that he's a fast driver on these road courses. Absolutely.
So again, your session results scrolling across the screen. We're not done yet tonight. We have another race coming up in just a couple minutes. Race number 2. It's 30 minutes long. And again, the drivers will qualify here in just short order. So we're going to go to break. We're going to catch our breaths for a couple minutes, get a drink of water. We'll be back with you in a few minutes for race number 2, the SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge. If you want to hear from winner Chris Henn, Michael Borden, Robert Hartley, we're going to talk to all of them after race 2 concludes here in a little bit. Thanks for watching. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
To most, driving is just a mundane task between point A and point B. Nothing more. It's the frustration of traffic at 8 a.m. The feeling of sickness on a long ride. The car? Just a tool. It's supposed to be practical, reliable, and fast. But the speed is really the reason cars exist. Born out of a necessity to make that A to B trip just a little bit faster. Some have a deeper connection with cars. Found somewhere in the bond of man and machine, a desire to be part of something bigger than yourself. It's the extension of mind and body to something more exciting than just another appliance. And these people never cared about practicality or reliability. To them, the only thing that matters is speed. We're born with a competitive nature, part of a biological necessity that is not yet worn off with time. People have raced for thousands of years, and that competition has transcended history and found its way to the industrial age. Railroads raced to build across the country, replacing the horses whose strength is still used as a benchmark for power today. And as personal vehicles became popular, the railroads died off. What once was the quickest way across the country became snail's pace in comparison. The interstate highway system expanded and cars populated every driveway. And the competition between types of transport quickly transitioned into the race to have the fastest car. Bragging rights. Manufacturers like Porsche, Ferrari, and BMW emerged in auto racing, each trying to one-up the other. Building engines became an arms race. Who could build the fastest dinosaur-powered lens? So while the passion for cars has died for most, there are still people that are fascinated by racing. The sights, the sounds, the smell of burning rubber and spent race fuel lingering in the air. This is what attracts us to the sport of auto racing. We are empowered by drivers that climb in impossibly fast cars and put everything on the line for the sake of competition. Drivers who know that one slip-up can lead to disaster. And for the longest time, wishing to be a race car driver was just a childhood dream. All we could ever be was a spectator. Opportunities? Limited and expensive. Reserved only for the who's who of the racing world. Until now.
Welcome back to Winding Road Magazine's YouTube channel. My name is Kyle Heyer, and I'm alongside Finita Laguna. We are from SimTV, a YouTube broadcasting team that broadcasts iRacing races. And one of the things we were drafted to broadcast this year was the SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge. Finita, it's been a pleasure to be a part of this series all year, but I think we just saw the best race of the season about 10-15 minutes ago, and we still have a whole race yet to come.
Yeah, no, I'm curious if that's even that finish is gonna top this race, because I think it's gonna be a tall order. But I definitely think one of the guys we got to keep our eye on for this race is Chris Henn. Didn't have the best of qualifying efforts, qualified decently in the last race, but worked his way up into the front at the very last few corners and won that race. I think definitely he's got a lot of pace. Maybe he could actually take pole here in qualifying, although it's gonna be a tall order because the track is actually not that hot as it was before.
All right, so qualifying underway, and so what we're doing here is setting the grid up for race number 2. So we're running basically time trials right now, and look at how the field is right now, Finny, and it's right behind the other. And you kind of joked before we came back live that this was very much like NASCAR, all lined up using the draft here as they head down the hill, and I think everyone's kind of gearing up to get their best qualifying lap in as they all come across the line for lap number 1. You mentioned the track conditions as well. It was 130 degrees in practice. It's 107 right now, so it could be pretty toasty out there on the racetrack when we hit the green flag here in about 10 minutes. So still qualifying at the moment. as a lot of drivers are peeling off. They're pretty satisfied. You know, one driver that is definitely not satisfied is DJ Alessandrini. He led the majority of race number 1 and ended up getting shuffled out in the closing laps. So he is looking for redemption in race 2 and looking to stretch his points lead back out after losing some ground to Robert Hartley in race 1.
Yeah, and that incident between...
Sorry,
yeah,
big crash on the racetrack.
Yeah. Yeah, Alessandrini and Hartley made contact in the first race. That was called under review. No action was taken from that incident, so Hartley doesn't have to worry about anything. But I'm definitely sure Hartley is happy about getting a solid amount of points over Alessandrini, who's been dominating the point standings ever since the get-go for the most part. And now he's finally been able to take a good chunk out of the 91's lead.
And so you were also talking during the mid-race break there that the move that Jesse Stevens made on Chris Henn in the final couple corners, he threw a big block on the 33, which in this series is a no-no. You have one defensive maneuver, and it cannot be in reaction to a competitor's move from behind you. You and I basically said that was definitely reactionary, but the stewards didn't rule on that. So I think Jesse Stevens kind of got away with murder there. I know he didn't end up doing very well. He ended up getting shuffled back more positions and didn't end up really benefiting after that, but still definitely crossing the gray area with the rules there. So he's got to be careful that he doesn't do the same in race 2.
Yeah, I think that might have been also probably why we didn't see anything, because he did end up falling down the order kind of due to blocking like that. He got sent with a lot more momentum through the chicane, missed the corners, so I think they figured he got not what he deserved, but didn't benefit from doing that block. So I think that's why they aren't going to do anything, or at least haven't said anything yet. There's still time for them to decide against that. We still got quite a bit ways in qualifying left, and Jesse Stevens is leading by 0.7 of a second at the moment.
Funny how that works. We're riding on board right now with Michael Boardman. How about Borden in race number 1? Didn't he finish? He was either second or third. I think he beat
second.
Hartley by 26 thousandths of a second. It was Michael Borden's best finish of the season. That was a really good race for that 42. He wasn't up front the whole night, but he stuck in it and was there when it mattered, and he could sneak by and potentially win one of these things. I think he's got this racetrack figured out. He's only qualified 5th right now, but coming through for another lap here. We'll see if he improves. His best lap was a 1:39.159. That lap wasn't at speed, so he's going to try again here. We're right on board on the gyro cam as we head up the hill here. Turn number 1 fitting. We saw the virtual reality lap that you did. This racetrack's a lot of fun, but it requires a lot of carrying momentum to be fast around here.
Yeah, it definitely does require a lot of momentum, and also you got to be very knowledgeable of how far you can really push the car over these curves. You can definitely go a lot more in some places and a lot less in others, and you also got to be careful of which curves you can use and how far you can go over them.
Ooh, Borden slipping over the exit curve on the exit of turn 5. That's a very fun corner, but it's very easy to run your tires out into the gravel trap, and we've seen drivers bring gravel back onto the racetrack. Which, that's not great either, because people will slip and slide over that. It's almost as bad as having oil or something. I mean, dirt is not good. You see Borden running a touch wide out of turn 7 using the curves there. Interestingly, we didn't see very many incidents overall. We saw really one at the top of turn 3, and then we saw a handful at or we saw one at the front straight and then one at the top of the final corner. But only really 3 big incidents. That's a drastic change from Mid-Ohio a few weeks ago.
Yeah, indeed that is. And also, I want to give a thanks to Dave Fitzgerald, admin for the series. He gave me the updated points, so the gap between Alessandrini and Hartley has dropped down to 13 from 20 before race 1 went underway. So that gap has definitely shrunk by quite a bit.
And the lead, we talked about this also in the mid-race break, that the points lead, it doesn't matter that much because, it's basically winner take all in the final race of the season anyway for the grand prize, but there are other prizes associated with the point standings that DJ is going to want to protect. So he's going to need to recover from that incident from race number 1 and do a little better. But also, how about Thomas Bresci? This guy has just been getting driven over the last couple races, has not found any luck. If he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all. And he's really trying to turn things around here. We'll see what he can do in race 2. About 6.5 minutes left in qualifying before we grid up for the second race of the night. If you have just joined us, here's the race format. We've completed race number 1, and moving on to race 2 here shortly. And it's a 30-minute race. It's 10 minutes longer than the 20-minute race we did before, which I think we're going to see more of the same, but for longer, which is good. So I think we're going to see a lot of drafting. I think we'll still see the front group of cars break away. But interestingly, Finian, look at where DJ Alessandrini is as we pull up the qualifying on the left-hand side of the screen. He's only P7 right now. He's not qualified very well. That's very uncharacteristic. He's going back out again on the racetrack here in a moment, but you'd think that he would have already been at the top of the board.
Yeah, you would definitely think so, at least in the top 3 or 2 spots, but is currently back in 7th, which isn't a horrible qualifying effort by any means, but definitely kind of uncharacteristic from the 91. We've seen him a lot higher up the order, but here he is waiting to get another run out there. Still got a lot of time to get one down, but I'm sure he's definitely frustrated that he's not higher up the pecking order.
Jesse Stevens in the 13 continues to run the quickest laps on the racetrack, a 1:38.322. And it's a full 0.4 of a second faster than second place Michael Borden. But if you look at the top 3, that's pretty much actually top 4. That's your 4 fastest drivers from race 1. So it's very clear to me that specific drivers have this track figured out. A different group of drivers than we've seen in the past. I know Jesse Stevens has been quick, but Michael Borden, we haven't really seen a whole lot out of him all this year. And he's finally showed up to the party here at Road Atlanta, along with Chris Henn. Had some really good runs at Laguna Seca that were shortened by an engine exploding, but looking like he could maybe sweep Road Atlanta as well.
Yeah, another driver that kind of surprised us further down, Paul Darling, all the way back in 8th, right behind Alessandro, and he hasn't really been able to improve his time.
Yeah, Paul Darling, really, I thought could have been in the top 3 in the last race. Things didn't quite pan out that way. And again, he is the victorious in the SPEC Racer challenge that was put on by the SCCA and iRacing, and he won that. So he's very talented in these low horsepower, high momentum race cars. And so far this season, I don't think we've seen quite as much out of him as we would have expected, Finian, but it looked like in the first half of race 1 at least, he was really geared up to go racing and probably could have won that race.
And as qualifying is starting to wind down, I think guys are getting ready to gear up for their final run, start to get on their out lap. And I'm sure definitely the pressure is going to be rising for drivers like Alessandrini and Darling who are down the order, but guys like Borden and Stevens, I think they can relax just a little bit. They can try to get out there and improve their times, but especially for Stevens too. His time is way ahead than everyone else's.
Yeah, it's not even close. What is close, though, is battle for third. Robert Hartley and Chris Henn, they are only separated by 16 thousandths of a second. Even closer between Jonathan White and DJ Alessandrini for 6th. 1,000th of a second between their times. That's mighty close. Also, Jonathan White is 22. Remember, he got turned heading up the hill on lap number 1 last time. Never really got a chance to do well in race 1, but he has been quick this week. We'll see if he can improve in race 2. Ooh, took a big jump in turn 5 as well. Take a look at our conditions as well one more time. It's 87 in the air, 106 on the racetrack. Track temp has been a big discussion this week. In practice, we saw it hit 130. It's down to 106. So I think we're going to see more like this 106 in the race, but that seems to be a little bit more comfortable than it could be. I know I was practicing in pretty close to 130-degree temperatures, Vinny, and just to kind of get an idea what these drivers would be dealing with. And 130 is hot. 106 is manageable.
Yeah, it really is extremely hot. You're going to be sliding around along. That's the thing, too. Once you started sliding around, not only is the track hot, but your tires are going to get hot, too. You're just going to lose a lot of grip that way. So with the high temperatures, you got to worry about your own tire temps because you don't want to let them get too hot because there's already little grip out there.
I think we got Adam Brouillard back as well. Adam, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, we got him. All right, so again, this is Adam Brouillard from Paradigm Shift. And Adam, we talked in the pre-race for race 1 about what Paradigm Shift is, and then we got to stick around and watch all of race number 1. So after watching that race, seeing the tendencies of the drivers, what do you expect for race number 2?
Well, I'm quite impressed. These are some, definitely some of the front runners are some pretty top-tier drivers. I'm guessing it'll probably be more the same, like you said, but sorry, I just saw a guy just purposely crash into a wall. That is definitely something you don't see in a real race. No. And then his car disappeared. But yeah, I think it'll probably be more the same. I think we're going to see a front pack again at Road Atlanta. It's hard to break away It's not like some of the technical twistier tracks with short straights, or a really skilled driver can, break the draft and get a clean run. Here, I mean, it's pretty much gonna always come down to front 5 or 6, whoever can stay in that front train. It's really probably going to come down to the end again, but we'll see.
Absolutely. So 53 seconds remaining in qualifying. It's Jesse Stevens at the top of the board by 0.4 of a second. He's got that covered right now as we gear up for the second race of the night. It's going to be 30 minutes, which is 10 minutes longer than race number 1. And I think we've all come to the consensus, Finian, that it's not really going to change the look of the race. But I do think it's going to give drivers a little bit more time to get themselves in position for that last lap.
Yeah, and it also can work the opposite way here. We've been talking about it, and we kind of saw in that race, you were able to make a move on the last lap. Your name was Chris Henn. Although we saw these guys being able to move quite a bit with 20 laps. With the 30 minutes, it's going to be interesting to see, will these guys still have enough grip and will not spent their tires enough to really not have much of a run, not be able to get enough of a run on the final lap. So it'll be kind of interesting to see that dynamic.
Checkered flag flies in qualifying. There's still an additional 2 minutes left for any driver that has started a lap to complete one. And hey, I actually see the checkered flag waving here for once, Finny. Is that fixed finally?
Hang on, I want to see if I can see it too.
There was a glitch with an iRacing where you couldn't see the flagman waving the flag in spectator mode, and I think that has been fixed. At least here it has been. All right, anyway, the only drivers left out of the racetrack, Chris Henn, he won race 1. We're going to talk to him after race 2, regardless of how race 2 goes for him. But I believe it was his first win of the season. I could be wrong about that, but I believe it was his first win.
I'm pretty sure you're right about that.
And we've done a lot of races so far. 12 to be exact. That was our 13th, and this will be our 14th race of the season in 7 rounds.
It's actually his second win of the season, and his other win came at Summit Point.
Oh, that's right. Yes. He won one of the Summit Point races. So he has been a victory lane so far, but that was the first time in recent. I think Summit Point was our second round, so it's been a long time since he's seen a checkered flag. But I think he's definitely a favorite to win race 2. He's certainly very aggressive on that final lap. Adam, I wanted to ask you one more thing before we get gridded up for race number 2. We saw in the last lap a big block by Jesse Stevens, and it was definitely a reactionary move. In terms of club level racing, how much is acceptable in terms of defensive maneuvers and blocking, and how far is too far when it comes to that?
Yeah, I don't think at any level of racing there is ever a clear answer. I mean, racing is... It almost seems like you're better to ask for forgiveness later and go ahead and do what you got to do to win the race. You see that, and there's no clear-cut rules. To me, it kind of looked like a block. I guess it's always up to the stewards, but I've seen things that definitely look like a block not be called a block. Yeah, so I would call it a block, but it's not up to me.
All right. I think Finney and I kind of came to that consensus as well. And sometimes you get away with something. I think one of the things that contributed to him not getting a penalty was that ultimately he ended up kind of getting burned in the situation anyway and slipping back down the grid.
I think that's probably what it is. It's like just didn't need to add vinegar onto that wound.
So, like Adam said, sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask permission. So, Jesse Stevens, we'll see if he tries that maneuver again, because he's going to be starting first for the second race of the evening. It's round number 7. This will be our last race of the night. Here's your format one more time. We're about to start race number 2. It's 30 minutes long. We got about 17 cars going for victory here as the field takes the grid. We're going to do one pace lap behind that Porsche pace car, and then we're going to turn them loose for 30 more minutes. We want to thank our sponsors, Paradigm Shift, Ricmotech, Winding Road Racing, and Winding Road Magazine, as well as LevelUp Racing School, for coming on board sponsoring the series. They've done a spectacular job this season, providing support and the season-end prizes, $4,000 worth of prizes at the end of the season. That is going to be really exciting to see someone take home. So if you want to check out or you're interested in any of the products or services they provide, links are in the video description. Open that up. You have a couple minutes to check those things out before we drop the green flag on the field. Finian, Jesse Stevens starting first. Do you think he's going to take this race any differently? Do you think he'll settle into second, or do you think he's going to go out and just try to maintain that lead for as long as he can?
I think he's going to try to maintain that lead as much as he can. I think definitely one of the faster guys on the grid other than Chris and maybe Alessandrini. Although Alessandrini, speaking of which, is stuck back in 7th, wasn't really able to improve. And even Darling, he's worse off. He's all the way back in 11th. So a lot of guys you expect to be in the front aren't quite there. So slightly different aura than we had in race 1, especially with Borden. How about his qualifying effort up into 2nd place after just finishing 2nd? So 42's definitely brought the pace here this week.
Absolutely. If we take a look from up above, though, real quick, one of the other things we can see is on the far side of the racetrack, it's sunny. On the near side of the racetrack, right underneath us, where the front straightaway is, it's cloudy, and that's going to change the track temperature. Adam, how much does the cloud cover affect the grip and handling of a racetrack?
Well, it certainly does a lot in iRacing. And, you know, I've actually done some experimentation in iRacing to see exactly what kind of a difference it can make. And that's the kind of thing you can do in iRacing that you just can't do in real life. I mean, you know, we can go out and we can measure track temperatures, but, you know, you can't say, okay, now put the clouds back and let's try that again. So, again, in iRacing, it makes a big difference. You know, in real life, it definitely does too. But it's really hard to say how accurate their simulation is.
All right, so field rolling off now, gridding up door to door, side by side. And race 1, I think Finian and I agreed that it was probably the most exciting race of the season. Well, you know, I don't think you can have too much of a good thing when it comes to racing, so we're going to add 10 minutes and see how they do for the second race of the night. Turn 3, this was a trouble spot in race 1. At the top of the hill, we saw a car. It was Jonathan White. He got booted off the first lap, but then we saw some more contact up there later in the race. It's a blind corner, and also at the top of the hill after the chicane, we saw some incidents there. So it seems like the blind corners are where the trouble spots are, which I guess makes sense because you can't really see where you're going.
Yeah, I'm honestly not too surprised that we saw some trouble in that corner. I think just naturally, that's where a lot of incidents happen on the first lap at Atlanta. Everyone's just going to a very tight, and as you said, blind corner. That's almost always a recipe for disaster, but for the most part, everyone kept it pretty clean. White, of course, would probably argue that he did go sideways, but was able to still save his car and continue on in the race. It could have been a lot worse, and hopefully nothing worse happens here in lap 1.
All right, so field forming up on the back straightaway. This has been the battlefield this evening, this long back straightaway. Well, they say this racetrack's 2.5 miles. I think it's this back straightaway itself has got to be about 5 miles long with what it feels like in these cars. It's a lot of straightaway here, a lot of drafting, and we were joking that it's like Talladega. That's like NASCAR racing back here, but there's a little bit of a skill to bump drafting, to helping other people, to choosing the fastest line. All of that is true of the back straightaway here at Road Atlanta, especially downhill where you can use the gravity to help these cars overcome their horsepower disadvantage when it comes to being relatively low-powered cars. Luke Pfeiffer in the 06. Haven't seen a whole lot of him in race 1, Finny. Maybe he can kind of peek his way into the show here. He's going to be starting mid-pack. But up front, Jesse Stevens, Michael Borden, they'll be on the front row. All right, 30 minutes. It'll be about 19 laps from start to finish. It's the 13, that bright purple car alongside the reddish-pink machine. That's Michael Borden. Green flag flies, racing again in Road Atlanta for the second race of round number 7 of the SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge.
Yeah, and Stevens held them up on the start. Everyone got really stacked up into turn 1 here. This is going to be interesting going through the S's.
Everyone side by side, 2, maybe 3 wide for a second. Whoa, that's Hartley that got really close to jumping off the racetrack as we head up the hill towards turn 3. 3 wide in the middle of the pack, that's Thomas Bressy. He got wrecked out of race 1. Try not to do the same in race 2. Jumping the curb through turn 3. Cars sliding all over the place. That was Snodgrass in front of Mitchell Peak at the back of the field. Meanwhile, up towards the front again, everyone trying to get sorted out. It's Jesse Stevens, Chris Henn, Michael Borden, your top 3, then Saxon, Hartley, Alessandrini rounding out your top 6.
Yeah, we saw Saxon just narrowly get 9th away from Alessandrini as it came across the checkered flag. He suffered a penalty in race number 1, so we really never got to see his true potential, but here he is up making some noise inside the top 5.
Thomas Bressy trying to get around Paul Darling. This is for 9th place at the moment. He gets it done, forces Darling out over the edge of the curb through turn 6. Then Apex is turn 7, jumps the curb big time there, bouncing up across the curb, exits, and heads down the back straightaway. Stevens out in front by 0.4 of a second, but we're going to see this gap close up very quickly with Chris Henn sitting in 2nd, but the whole field now on the back straightaway drafting.
Yeah, this is a familiar sight, I think, for both these guys here on lap 1. Now, I'm curious how patient Chris Henn's going to be with Stevens. He knows Stevens is willing to put a late block on him, so, you know, as a driver, what do you do with that situation?
Thomas Bressi under attack from Paul Darling again. These guys have been going side by side for the majority of the first lap. Darling apexes turn number 10. Oh, it got really tight, and Bressi forces the 55 out to the curb on corner exit, but they give each other just enough room to play with as we head down the hill. Everyone makes it through lap number 1. That's a first tonight. Everyone made it through.
Yeah, great job by everyone. I was concerned, especially since the field was stacked up, but everyone was able to make it through A-OK, and the top 6 have broken away from the rest of the pack.
Bressi and Darling continue to fight, and Bressi had him. Darling cleared. He's going to have to get back in line here as we head to turn number 3, jumping the curbs once again. This has been a trouble spot so far. That's the 06 of Pfeiffer side by side with Sam Scott. Oh no, that was the 23, excuse me, Jack Sanchez. Sam Scott is following him as they head down the hill. Ticker along the top of your screen showing your running order and the sponsors of this event as we head down to lap number 2.
Ooh, and behind the 51 of Steve Ficacci in the grass.
Steve Ficacci going a little bit wide. A couple of cars went way wide on the exit at turn 5. But for the top spot, though, look at this. That's 6 cars again. It's the same 6 we saw before. This time, Jonathan White, who had a really bad start to race 1, he's tacked on the end of it with Steve Ficacci right behind.
Ooh, I'm seeing some internet issues for the 33 of Chris Henn. I saw him flash on the pace lap, and also it was just flashing now as he now has a look to the what's going to be the inside of Jesse Stevens here on lap 2.
Down to the inside, battle for the lead. Chris Henn, he won race 1. He's going to try to win race 2. There's a long way to go, but he takes the lead away from Jesse Stevens into the chicane. We're going to head back through the field a little bit more. Pfeiffer under attack from Jack Sanchez and Sam Scott. They're side by side in the chicane, and Mitchell Peak and Mark Snodgrass fighting over the scraps at the back of the field. And Peak gets a spot away. Chris Henn is going to lead lap number 2.
Oh, it's not done yet. Saxon looks like he may make a move on Borden. Oh, he actually taps 42 a little bit. Not going to do anything, though.
Some contact there. Alessandrini sitting in behind all this. He's been the dominant car of the season all season long. He's tied for the most race wins, but couldn't do it in race number 1. Got shuffled out in the closing laps. He's all over the back of Nathan Saxon right now as they head down the hill. And Alessandrini's really in an offensive position. He's been mostly defensive so far this year.
Yeah, this is a little, I would kind of say new ground, but he's definitely been an aggressive driver there. You see him now trying to find a way around Saxon. Looks to his outside, but can't get the move done.
Heading into turn 6 and 7. Everyone's been remarkably nice and clean and tidy through here. This is typically a spot where you see cars go off on track out at turn 6 just because the curb is so narrow and there's no runoff room to speak of, other than if you include turf or grass as runoff. They make it through there successfully and fire back up onto the back straight. Alessandrini and Saxon side by side for 4th.
Yeah, Alessandrini with a fantastic run out of turn 7 down the straightaway. And you can see the leader starting to snake to the right. Alessandrini trying to get clear of the 41, and indeed he does. So we'll take that 4th spot away.
Well, those top 3 all nose to tail. Jesse Stevens and the 42 Michael Borden, they're nose to tail. And look who's joined the fight now. It's Robert Hartley and Jonathan White, who got shuffled out at the beginning of the last race. He's tacked onto the field. He can try to get some redemption in race 2.
And I'm sure he's definitely looking for that. We saw ahead, he drove his way all the way up into the pack and then was a contender. And the same thing with Borden, too. Both of them drove up into the pack, were contenders, and finished 1-2.
And Jonathan White tracking out at the exit of the final corner over what I heard called this week as alligator backs. That was the first time I've heard them called that. Rumble strips, curbs, alligator back, tiger teeth. I've heard that term before, but at Road Atlanta, they're all extremely vicious. You see White run a little bit wide there as well. Most racetracks, they're relatively low profile, but here at Road Atlanta, they're very tall and can upset the car if you use them improperly. But if you use them right, you can really help rotate the car around the corners. You see them do through turn 5.
Oh, and Borden hit the wall up and over on his roof.
Oh, tumbling, barrel rolling on the back straightaway, and Borden's night is over. That car is destroyed, and wow, Sam Scott just missed it. But Borden, disappointing end to race number 2. How did this happen? Turn 5, or yeah, exit turn 5, got airborne, clips the tire barrier. That's what turns it over. And just a violent accident. And what a shame how quickly things go wrong. You just see it get airborne just for a second, over the exit of the turn 5 curb where it drops away and turns back into pavement. And here's the onboard, and just, for a split second, lost control and tumbled. And Adam, we know how tight the runoff areas are here, but turn 5, certainly a very vicious corner if things go wrong.
Yeah, if I guess when you get to, if you visit the track, that part of the track has all kinds of marks on it from other cars hitting that part on the wall. That's just, yeah, it's a car magnet over there. It's right there. And, yeah, that's makes you realize how dangerous turn 5 really can be.
Things seem safe until you go off the racetrack a little bit. You know, Eau Rouge at Spa, the S's at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, and you really got to push turn 5 to make it work. I mean, you got to use those curves. They're just that's just a suggestion.
A suggestion. Well, if they wanted you to not go there, they'd put a wall there. And whoa, no!
Yeah. Slipped up for the lead. He's sideways, and that's going to allow Jesse Stevens to take the lead in the S's. Wow.
Yeah, and actually, it's going to be a slowdown for the 33, so I'll have to give up some time. It's going to stack up the field behind him. That's Nathan Saxon. I don't think he knows the 33 has a slowdown. He's tucked in behind. Now has to go left to get around him, but Alessandrini shuffles his way into second. A dramatic couple of laps here early in the going here at Road Atlanta. Wow.
And that could have been big.
Oh, no!
And Saxon gets into the 33, turns him around.
Oh, Hen gets spun off the bumper of Saxon. Will there be a penalty for the 41? Here's a look. Oh, yeah, he got into him pretty good there, Finney, and I think we'll probably see the stewards call that as avoidable contact, but we'll see. Here's another look. Yeah, he got into him pretty good, turned him around, and Hen was able to recover a little bit, but he's down into 7th and might lose a couple more spots. So that has let Stevens and Alessandrini get out to a huge lead over Nathan Saxon, who's 1.7 seconds back from those top two. And now Saxon, Hartley, and White all have to work together to catch those front two.
Yeah, maybe they'll have a big gap, as you were saying. So unless they do work together, and also Hartley's got to be careful because Saxon might be getting a penalty here soon. So I think he's going to try to work with that 41 as much as they can to make up some lost ground.
Okay, a dramatic couple laps. We're only on lap number 6, excuse me, at the moment. So it's been a pretty wild start to the race, so we kind of picked up right where we left off. Let's head back midfield a little bit. Brian Shabelski in the number 12. He's battling Mark Snodgrass in the 67. This is for 11th place, and Snodgrass takes a look to the inside.
I just got word that...
Mitchell Peak off track down there in turn 1. Go ahead, Finney.
I just got word that an incident is on review between the 24 and the 51. And this was last lap going through turn 3. For both of them.
All right, I'm gonna go back and find that so we can take a look. Oh yes, here it is. Ooh, this looks interesting. Here's the 51 and the 24. How did this transpire? Ooh, the 24 way off the racetrack. He made a big slip up and rejoined and just clobbered the 51. Oh, that's definitely gonna be a penalty for the 24. I'd be really surprised if they didn't penalize him. And that was just a situation where he got off track, tried to get back on, and just didn't do it correctly and just clobbered the 51. And then we saw Mitchell Peak. He got some damage, and actually, I think that's going to be the end of his night as well. So for Mitchell Peak, not a great string of races.
Yeah, indeed. And also from race control, the incident that we saw between the 33 and the 41, that's going to be under review as well.
Yes, so a lot of penalties forthcoming potentially. So the leaders, they've continued to gain. It's now 1.8 back to Hartley and Saxon, and they continue to battle amongst themselves. Is this being a little selfish, or do they have to think about the bigger picture here?
I think you definitely got to think about the bigger picture. I mean, if they want to win, if they want to finish third, I think they can definitely go amongst themselves. But yeah, really, they should start working together. But Saxon, I think he's got something potentially coming to him here. So I think he's just kind of trying to fight for his own here.
Heading to the top of the hill now again for the 7th time. It's Stevens and Alessandrini. If they play this smart, they're going to be all by themselves. Ooh, Hartley off course a little bit at the top of the hill. Here comes Saxon now with a big head of steam. Jonathan White. It's tan, silver tan, 3rd through 5th.
Uh-oh. Oh, and Hartley had to cut the corner there. Yeah. That's going to be a slowdown.
Big cut for the 0-3. If you cut the inside of the corners, you have to give that time back up or you will receive a black flag. Now, Hartley might have gotten away with it.
And speaking of black flags, one was just handed to the 24. Thomas Bressy's going to have to come into the pits and do a pass-through. Yeah, so avoidable contact for the 24 of Thomas Bressy. It's really unfortunate for Thomas because he got clobbered out in the last race, and there was a penalty assessed on the driver that did get involved with him, but this time it's him with the black flag. And meanwhile, battle for third. They're continuing to fight amongst themselves. Have they given up
on catching those leaders.
I mean, it looks like because they're about to go 3 wide here into the chicane. This is going to get interesting. I think Hartley's going to back out of this for now.
They're still losing lots of ground to those front two. Now Sandrini now has a lot of control over this race because Stevens is a sitting duck right now. There's nobody to challenge DJ, and all DJ has to do is put the pressure on the 13, and he's good to go.
Yeah, and how about Jonathan White, though? Past 2 guys going into the chicane, so great job by him moving himself up to 3rd. I think this is definitely going to be redemption for him if he can finish there for race number 1.
Can you recall off the top of your head what the per-race prizes were for the podium finishers?
I know it was a pretty decent award.
Was it 100 for the winner? I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was someone asking about it. That's why I was curious.
Let me go check and see if I can find it real quick.
Okay, as we continue to watch the battle, Stevens and Alessandrini 3/10 between them, and then it's 2.7 back to Jonathan White, Nathan Saxon, Robert Hartley, and then Paul Darling into 6th. Darling started in 11th spot. He's climbed up 5 into P6. So as we continue to watch this race, Adam, the intensity has certainly come up quite a ways. We thought we would see more of the same. Are you going to reevaluate this, or I mean, how do we go from here?
You know, I think people are feeling like they got the track figured out and they're pushing a little bit harder, and well, you know, I think that's just ending up with people pushing themselves off track. So, you know, I think probably people will pull it together by the end of the race, but then again, the tires might be gone at that point, and they're fighting a losing battle trying to, you know, conserve tires versus push. So I still think it'll probably come down to the end, but, you know, we're just going to have to wait and see.
Wait and see, we will. And there's, that's Hartley going for a pass on Nathan Saxon. He completes it. That was down in the chicane. Paul Darling is closed up on this fight. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about, Adam, while we have a kind of a lull in the action here, was in race 1, we saw those leaders kind of bunched up. We saw 4 or 5, and it kept building with more cars that were catching the front group. So the draft, you'd think it makes you faster, but as a group, it makes you slower. Does that seem to be the case?
Well, it's a little bit of on the straightaways. It definitely. I mean, a pack of cars. I mean, they can gain 10, 15 miles per hour top speed, at least in real life, versus you know, a single car. So, you know, it can mess them up through the corners if they don't know what they're doing. But you know, if they know what they're doing, they can all stay together. The problem is, though, as they're trying to, you know, they are bunched up, so they're fighting basically for the rest of the track, and then they get back to the back straight, and they all get bunched back together, and it repeats over and over again until someone crashes or someone can pull away or the race ends.
Absolutely. We just saw a swap for position up at the front. It was DJ Alessandrini going around the outside of Jesse Stevens. You're watching the replay right here. Smooth, clean, and controlled pass for the 91. Goes around the outside, and now Stevens is on the attack, and that has allowed Jonathan White to close the gap a little bit. He's trailing Hartley, Saxon, Paul Darling, and others with him. Chris Henn is also in that fight. Remember, he got shuffled out in the early stages. I think it was the 41 of Saxon which booted him off course in turn 7, so he gets around Paul Darling back into 6th place. He's not out of this thing just yet. If this rear group catches the front, it could be interesting to say the least.
Yeah, and actually they are catching up to him. Last time through, before they get to the line, that group ran 4/10 faster, and as they come through the line this time by, it's going to be 139 for Alessandrini, 139.3 for Alessandrini, 139.2 for Jonathan White. So they're catching, albeit at a slow pace.
Yeah, it's going to be...
Also, wanted to give an update on the incident between the 33 and the 41. Warning is going to be issued for 41, but it will be reviewed. It is considered avoidable contact. You'll only get off.
Okay, so for Nathan Saxon, the 41, who had contact with Chris Henn, only a warning for the avoidable contact on the first couple laps there. Chris Henn has actually chased him back down, so I guess the outcome seems to be affecting the harshness of the penalty so far tonight. We've had 3 retirements in this race. Sam Scott, Mitchell Peak, Michael Borden. Borden and Mitchell Peak with crash damage. Sam Scott blew the motor out in that 98 just last time by. I think it was a downshift that caused that for the number 98. Meanwhile, Henn, he gained a spot on Darling. Now he's got those 3 drivers ahead of him, and then it's the leaders. But you mentioned how they've been closing, Finian, and they are closing indeed. So Stevens and Alessandrini, they're definitely not making up the time they were the first couple laps. They were nose to tail.
Yeah, and looking also at Hen, he might make a pass on Saxton here. I think Saxton probably the slowest of this kind of 4-car pack that's formed up behind the leaders here. And here comes Hen now looking to the inside into the chicane. There he goes. Signature move, and he gets around him.
All right.
So Chris Hen back up into 5th place, right in behind Hartley and Jonathan White. But again, do these guys have enough time to chase back the leaders?
Well, it's 13 minutes left in this race, so I think they have time, but they're going to have to be really working together. I don't think competition's going to help them very much.
Oh, and also update for the viewer who asked about what the payouts are. It is these are combined points from both race 1 and race 2 for each round. First place will get $100, second place $50, third place $25, and also a 25 Raceway gift code will be given to the winner of each race. And also all the cash prizes will be given in the form of credits to purchase gear either from Raceway or Winding Road Racing.
Thank you for that update, Finian. It's been a while since we've gone over the prizes per race. We go over the end prize for the end of the season a lot because that's the big one that everyone's going for. That's the big picture. Ooh, Chris Hen dirt tracking a little bit at the exit of the corner, but of course there is money on the line for each race as well and put on by WeatherTech. And of course Paradigm Shift has also come on board, as well as LevelUp Racing School. And Winding Road. We want to give Winding Road an additional thank you for allowing us to be on their YouTube channel. We are not part of Winding Road. We are not affiliated with Winding Road. We are SimTV. So anything we say is not reflective of Winding Road. So you can check us out at youtube.com/SimTV Broadcasting for more. Chris Hen up into 4th, Finny, and that 33 is coming.
Yeah, he's coming and he is hungry. He's hungry for positions. The positions I feel like I think he feels that he's lost earlier in this race, as he's now got his sights on the 23 Jonathan White. I'm curious. White's been keeping a pretty decent pace, although and even gained some time in Alcindor Andrini last time through. So I think 33 might stick behind this 22, or maybe even try to pass him. Oh, Hen though goes wide in turn 1.
Yeah, he's way off over there. Just caught it in the back of the frame there, and he's gonna lose a bunch of positions that he just gained. But Jonathan White is closing on those 2 leaders, and once they catch Stevens and Alcindor Andrini, I think all bets are off. Anyone in this top group will be able to have an opportunity to win the race. But we are 12 laps through of about 19 in this race, 11 minutes to go. So we are about 2/3 of the way through this race, and time is beginning to dwindle a little bit. But Stevens and Alcindor Andrini still decently in control of this event.
Yeah, definitely they are, and we're looking at a point where if these guys were, this was only race 1, they would have been finishing up by now, but you had a whole 10 minutes left, and we're seeing that back group starting to catch the leaders here, so this is where that extra time comes into play.
Nathan Saxon under attack from Chris Hen again, so Hen's mistake. He's going to have to rebound from that, and he's right alongside that 41, and we've talked about this a little bit tonight, how you kind of want to be on driver's right coming down to the chicane here. Adam, when are you most successful making a pass down here? Are you on driver's left most of the time or driver's right? And how does the chicane change?
For a chicane pass, you would generally be on the right, especially because it's such a short chicane. We're talking about the 10AB pass, correct?
That's correct.
Yes. Yeah, in order to make the left pass work, I mean, you have to be in front by the first apex, which is pretty rare when you're doing a draft pass. So really, you need to be on the outside, and then you're going double through the chicane, and then hopefully complete it, certainly by turn 1, but generally by the front straight.
Absolutely, and we see some drivers jumping the curbs in turn 3 again, getting very liberal with the use of the curbing and the dirt there through there, and we've seen the penalties be pretty lenient, and we talked about that pre-race, that drivers would be taking advantage of that, as well as on the exit of turn 5. You see that white and green rumble strip material. Every inch, plus a couple, you see the tire tracks in the gravel trap there. They're using every little bit to their advantage. Meanwhile, Jonathan White's actually broken away from Hartley and Saxon just a little bit.
Yeah, ran 2/10 faster than Alcindor Andrini last time through with a 1:38.8. First guy that dipped back under the 39-second bracket in a while. Everyone else has been running a little above that. Alcindor Andrini with a 1:39 flat.
All right, so we have about 8 minutes and 50 seconds remaining. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty now, and The field was a little bit more spread out than we saw last race, but I kind of sense this closing back up in the final laps of this one, because DJ and Jesse aren't drafting as efficiently as they were before, and White has been consistently 2 to 3 tenths quicker every single lap.
Yeah, and also Hartley and company have been kind of benefiting from White a little bit, although I'm sure they're going to want to close up the gap to get the full benefit of the draft off that 22.
Yeah, so White
can do all the hard work.
White is about 1.3 back from Jesse Stevens, and that's about the upper limit of the effect of the draft you get here with an iRacing. It doesn't give you a lot. Meanwhile, Jesse Stevens dogging Alessandrini through turn number 1 as they head up the hill again. And I bet you White right now is just hoping and praying that these front two battle a lot.
Yeah, of our leaders, fastest guy through last time was Robert Hartley with a 138.67.
That was his fastest lap of the race, Finian. So he's flying. You know who else just ran their fastest lap? Jesse Stevens in second. The race is on. Over the curbs of the exit of turn 5, we saw Michael Borden's race come to an end there after finishing second in the first race. A horrible crash on the exit of turn 5 after jumping the curb, getting airborne, losing control of the car and bouncing off the tire barrier, and then barrel rolling, pirouetting through the air before coming to rest on all 4 tires. It was a dramatic end of the night for the 42. At least he went out with style, I guess.
Oh man, White, a lot of time through the first half of the lap. He's definitely there in getting the draft off the leaders. So he's now become a factor for the lead fight. It's now a 3-car fight, maybe even 4. Hartley is also not too far behind that 22.
Yeah, I mentioned that Jonathan White and Jesse Stevens were running practice sessions earlier this week. They practiced together, so Jonathan White is capable of just as much as Jesse Stevens is, and he has closed that gap. He is almost there. Paul Darling sits in 7th right now, that number 55, right behind Nathan Saxon. They're trailing the front 5 cars that are about to be all together and fighting and scrapping for the win. We're going to have about 6.5 minutes left as we cross the line here. 6 minutes 40. That's at the top left of your screen, and approximately 5 laps to go.
Hartley went even faster than that lap, 138.5 for the 0-3.
Ooh, Stevens got around Alessandrini, and Alessandrini's going to fight back side by side as they head towards turn 3, but Stevens gets the lead away.
Great move there.
Strong move by the 13. He takes the lead back. He's been really, really quick. Alessandrini was quicker for the first half of the race, but now the tides have turned. White trying to close back in. Hartley, Henn, and Saxon and Darling all trailing and trying to close the gap. From between 1st and 7th, it's 3.5 seconds, but with the draft, that can close very, very quickly.
Oh, I think they're definitely there at this point. The leaders really, between their swapping back and forth, they've really given up a lot of time to everyone else.
And there's White. Look at that big close through turn 7 as he jumps the curb, and now he's only about a half second back. That's pretty much prime drafting space right there. And DJ all over the back of Jesse Stevens, going to push him down the back straightaway, pushing, shoving, and I think Stevens is going to stay driver's left here.
Yeah, I think both of them I think they realized their mistake a little bit here, that everyone else is catching up to them at a great neck of speed. And it's not just them now for the lead fight with only 5 minutes left in this race.
Stevens moved back to the right, but DJ continues to push him. He's going to break a little early, so they were working together, but it's done them no good. Jonathan White is there, as is Robert Hartley and Chris Henn. It's a 5-way battle for the lead. It's going to be 4 laps to go. 5 minutes left in this race.
Yeah, I think it's a little too late to start working together now, and Alessandrini trying to make a pass on Stevens as they get to the front straightaway.
Oh,
and here he comes. There he goes inside.
To the inside. Here comes the 91 of DJ Alessandrini, the points leader. Lost a bunch of ground to second place Robert Hartley in the championship. Jonathan White took a big chunk of curb, and Alessandrini's going to get the lead back, but is it only for a moment? Stevens back to driver's left as they enter turn number 3. This is going to get really tight. Side by side. Is there going to be contact? No, it was close, though. Jesse Stevens hangs on the lead.
Yeah, Stevens muscled his way through turn 3 to get ahead of the 91, but here you see White right in behind the 91 of Alessandrini, up all over his mirror.
It's officially a 5-car fight. Stevens, Alessandrini, White, Hartley, and Henn. Nose to tail as they exit turn 5, head down to turn 6 and 7. It'll be 3 to go when they get back to the start-finish line. And those 2 tan cars, White and Hartley, they've been waiting all race to get their teeth around a bite of Alessandrini and Stevens. Exiting the corner now, Saxon and Darling. And Darling's in that yellow number 55. They're just trailing this front group of 5. And if they start scrapping a bit more, these guys could be in the fight as well. So it could go from a 5 to a 7-car battle pretty darn quickly.
Definitely can, as Alessandrini's looking on Stevens. He's bobbing back and forth. There he goes. Look to the inside as they head off to turn 10.
So what we talked about a couple laps ago with Adam, that driver's left is hard to make a pass, but Alessandrini gets it done. But here comes Jonathan White in the 22. Took a look, couldn't do it. And now Alessandrini's got the lead again. 3 laps to go with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in the race. Across the line. It's 2/10 between the top spot and second place. Another 2/10 back to Jonathan White. 1/10 back to Robert Hartley. It's nose to tail as they climb the hill for the 17th time.
Yeah, and looks like no one's going to make a move this time through. Everyone's playing it pretty patient so far.
How long do you think they'll be patient for here, Finian? I don't think it's going to be for too much longer.
I think up until this straightaway here, then up until the back straightaway.
Chris Henn looking for redemption. Got kind of booted out of the way in the opening laps. He's close enough to pounce at least on 4th in the closing laps of this one. Alessandrini and Stevens, they've been the class of the field all night, but neither of them finished in the top 2 last race. They're looking for redemption, and for Alessandrini to put another check mark next to the wins column for him. He's tied with most wins with Matt Busa, who was absent tonight. But Alessandrini has got 2 laps to go when they get back to the line. He's got to hold off a couple of hard chargers.
You see Alessandrini trying to move around just a little bit. He's going to hog the middle of the track. Stevens right, and behind him, White with a big draft.
Paul Darling in the background, that yellow car, taking a look to the inside of Nathan Saxon. That'll be for 6, but here comes Stevens to the inside of Alessandrini now. Maybe taking a look down into turn number 10A on the brakes deep. Not going to be deep enough to get there, though. He's got overlap on the 91. Maybe try to cross him over on corner exit. Here they come. 2 laps to go. Here comes Stevens to the inside, bringing Jonathan White with them.
Yeah, White tried to almost make it 3 wide there. He's been trying to take advantage of these two going side by side. Here he is building up a big run, and Stevens gets ahead of Alessandrini as they come across the line.
2 laps to go, about a minute. Ooh, this could be 1 to go. It's going to be really close like it was for race number 1. This could be the last lap, but we're not sure. Look at Stevens leading the race by just a couple inches. Ooh, a big checkup. I think White missed a gear. White missed a gear. It's held up partly behind. Chris Henn goes for 3rd. He can't do it, though. It might just be between these top 2 here, Finian. As the 3rd and 4th car battle behind, they're all stacked up. No, Hartley gets turned. He spins hard into the fence. That car's done. Back to the front, though. Alessandrini all over the back of Stevens. Alessandrini's championship foe is out of the race. He's wrecked at the bottom of the S's.
Yeah, now what are these two guys going to do? They head off hard into turn 6. We saw White was being aggressive earlier. He's a non-factor for now.
We could be coming back to the checkers. Only 48 seconds left in this race. If the time expires before we get back to the stripe, the checkered flag will wave. If there's still time on the board, we'll get 1 more lap. Jesse Stevens leads the race. DJ Alessandrini patiently behind. Jonathan White, Chris Henn, 3rd and 4th, but too far back to do anything this lap.
Up here comes Alessandrini with the run. Does he do anything? No, he's going to give the 13 a bump. I think he knows that there's going to be 1 more lap. We haven't seen the white flag yet.
It's going to be really, really close. 20 seconds left in the race. It's going to be amazing if they don't get the white here this time through. Alessandrini tries to cross over the 13. He's going to have a run. Stevens throws the block as they start to come down the hill. He pulls the drivers right. Coming back, 9 seconds left in the race. 8 seconds. Do they get to the line before it's over? 5 seconds left. 4, 3, 2, 1 more lap. White flag in the air.
Up and here comes Alessandrini. Great run out of the final corner. He's going to look to the outside in turn 1. Can't get it done.
Oh, contact!
Oh, contact!
They almost hooked bumpers there as they get through turn number 1. That's brought 3rd and 4th back in. Chris Henn goes on Jonathan White. That's for 3rd place. White might have to give this up, but Chris Henn's certainly not going to. Side by side through 3. Chris Henn gets the spot, but then they give up too much time to Alessandrini and Stevens.
I don't think they did. If Henn can get a great complex of corners here, he can gain that time back up and get to the bumper, that 91. Oh, it's going to be a tall order to pass 2 cars in 1 turn.
In the background, Paul Darling up to 5th place. He could be someone that could stick into this fight if these front couple get together. Alessandrini trailing Jesse Stevens. Takes a look out into turn 6. We haven't seen people make passes down here quite yet, and he backs out. Stevens gets in, drills the curb on corner entry, and then sets himself up for the long back straightaway, but he might have overdriven it a little bit. Alessandrini waits to get back on throttle. Stevens out in the grass. Now the back straightaway. It's all a chess match at over 100 miles an hour. Who's going to have the pace to do it in the final lap here?
Yeah, Henn ran outside too wide out of turn 7. Lost momentum. I think he's kind of out of it for now. But between Alessandrini and Stevens, we saw Stevens, he was in the lead, he threw a block, and here they come now for race number 2. What's he going to do? He's going to give the 91 the line.
Big run for the 91. He's going to be clear of him before they even get to the corner. There it is. Look at Jonathan White, a big dive bomb on the 20 or the 33 of Chris Henn. Stevens and Alessandrini side by side, but it's going to be Alessandrini leading the race as they come out of the final corner down the hill. Alessandrini, the winningest driver of the season. He's going to pick up another one as they come back to the checkered flag. DJ Alessandrini wins race 2 of the night. Jesse Stevens second and third, fourth, fifth, all right together. Wow. Nathan Saxon down pit lane. He'll come across the line in P6. Luke Pfeiffer in 7th. And everyone else from there on back pretty much separated out. But that was an incredible battle. DJ Alessandrini, the last chicane, makes the move, gets it done. And that is why he's leading your points, folks.
Yeah, but actually, for Nathan Saxon, didn't really have a time to mention this. He did get a black flag for the incident between him and Hartley.
Interesting. So penalty for Nathan Saxon on the last lap. Sends him down pit road. Didn't really seem to affect him too much, so I'm curious to see how that will be reflected in the post-race results. Here's your unofficial race results. The margins were close. 3/10 for the lead, and then 1/10 back to third. That was an exciting race too, Finian. From first to 5th, less than a second. That is how you finish a race at Road Atlanta. Take a breath there, Finian. Whew. That was good. Adam, what'd you think of that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think on that last pass, he just saw the guy going on the outside, and I don't know what he was thinking. I think he just let him go by because I think he thought, well, I'll just maybe try and pass him after the second part of the chicane, and he was like, that's not going to work. I mean, really, it's tricky to decide what side to go for on that last corner, because I mean, you can make the pass work either time. He did it before, he outbraked him, so. Yeah, I think he just kind of was like, I just don't know what to do.
Yeah, we're watching a replay from up above now, and Stevens just picked the wrong lane and didn't really get a good enough run off the corner, but look at that. First through 5th, less than a second between them as they cross the line, but let's go analyze that one more time as they come down the hill. You see the 13, he's on driver's left here, and he's established that spot, so the 91, the only choice he has is to go to the right, and Stevens gives him the lane. And Stevens looked like he chases him over to the white line, maybe thought about putting his tires out in the grass, but didn't. They get down to the corner, and Alessandrini already had the 13 well cleared before they even got to corner entry. And then he maybe tried to cross him over, but just didn't have the torque or the run off the corner, didn't make that apex late enough, and ultimately ended up coming home second place. Still a great result for the 13, but could have been a victory. It wasn't that time through. All right, so there's your results again. It's going to be just a moment. We're going to talk to DJ and Jesse and Chris in just a second. You're going to get to hear from all those drivers that were involved in those 2 spectacular finishes here at Road Atlanta. Race 2 of round 7 of the 2019 SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge. There's more races to come this season. The next one is in 2 weeks, and it's going to be a fun one. It'll be at Road America on, I believe, the 7th of August. So we'll be back in just a couple moments. Stay tuned for interviews. Welcome back live to Winding Road and SPEC MX-5 SimRacing Challenge, round number 7 from Road Atlanta. We're here now with second place finisher Jesse Stevens. Jesse, lots of practice this week, a hot racetrack, a tricky racetrack, 2 spectacular races, came up just short in both of them. Walk us through your night as a whole, but especially the finish to race number 2.
Yeah, so both races I was mainly going for those bonus points with the incidents, and I was doing really well in race 1 and only had a 1x until the last lap when I went to go defend Chris, when in hindsight I probably should have just let him go with how far inside we were. But yeah, and then dropping to 5th was kind of annoying after that. Race 2 was a lot of fun though. I was very surprised that they were able to close that 3-second gap to us. But yeah, going into 10A with DJ on the outside, and I saw that the gap around me was big enough to where if they lunged for it, it was not going to be pretty. So I knew they were smart enough not to do so. And I had a 1x, so I knew I would get 2 bonus points. So I went ahead and just let DJ have it since he didn't finish too well in the first one, to go for the overall points for the night.
So at this point in the season, is it really just playing the points game and going for those bonus points? And is the race stuff on the racetrack secondary to just kind of getting the bonus points and helping you out in the standings?
Yeah, at this point, especially with me not having the best of luck in the last 3 races or so, I'm just trying to mitigate as much damage as possible and just take what I can.
And looking back at the end of race number 2, is there anything you would have done differently there? Anything in hindsight you would have changed? Because, I mean, a second's a great position, but one spot better. They give a trophy for that one.
Hindsight, after seeing DJ kind of like overshoot his braking, if I just broke just that little bit later to stay alongside him, that's probably the only thing I would have done different.
All right, well, a second place result in race 2 for Jesse Stevens. A strong effort, not quite a victory, but very, very close for the driver, the number 13. Thanks, Jesse, and hopefully we'll talk to you next round.
All right, thanks, guys.
Guess we'll talk to DJ Alessandrini. Now, actually, we've got Chris Hen now. Hey, Chris, you got a copy?
Yeah, I got you, Kyle.
Hey, there's Chris Hen. Well, victorious in race number 1. Walk us through those closing moments, because that was a wild, wild finish, and you came out on top for the second time this season. It's your second victory. Just walk us through that race first before we get into race number 2.
Oh, it was just trying to make clean passes and get to the front. I didn't qualify very well, so I think I started 7th or 8th or something like that. But just trying to claw my way up to the front and trying to pass everybody clean. It's very hard to pass clean, especially on this track. So I think I did okay doing that. I might have got into a couple of people on the way.
Talk to us a little bit about race number 2. I know on the start you got a bit of a bumper from the 41 1/8 in Saxon. Talk to us about the recovery and the drive to get all the way back up to finish podium in the second race as well.
Yeah, I was pretty much mad driving, just trying to get back up there. I wasn't mad at anybody, but I was just mad that I wasn't with the lead pack anymore. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get back up there. But I just put my head down and drove as hard as I could and almost got to Jesse and DJ at the end there.
I asked Jesse Stevens the same thing about the end of race number 2, but do you think if you had another lap or anything that you would have done different those final laps to get yourself a couple spots higher?
If I had another lap, I would have gave it my all. You know that, Kyle. I always try my best.
All right. Well, Chris, then the postman finishing first in race 1, third in race 2. Again, though, the last corner or the last heading into the chicane, we saw you and I think it was Jonathan White kind of dive bombing each other off into that corner. What was going through your mind there heading into the corner? Did you think you could get up to those leaders, or were you just trying to defend from the 22?
I knew I can get up there at that point. I just wanted to try and get by everybody cleanly and then not slow us down while doing that. So, but I think I did pretty good. I got by everybody cleanly and got up to Jesse and DJ. I just didn't have the time to get by them.
Any final thoughts heading on to Road Atlanta before we head on to our next round?
Just happy to be where I'm at. Running good lately, so I couldn't be happier. Thank you guys for doing such a great job at Sim TV as usual, and it's always a good time. Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks a lot,
and
Chris.
Finian.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to talk to the man of the hour, DJ Alessandrini. Well, DJ, at the beginning of the season, we mentioned that there has never been a championship on SimTV that you've lost, and you continue your winning ways tonight. After race 1, a little bit of a shaky start, you rebounded for a victory. Walk us through your night as a whole and holding off Jesse Stevens.
There were some lessons learned on race 1, and it's better to learn it now in the preseason before the finale. I wasn't paying attention to the timer, so I was misjudging the aggression level on the guys behind me. And I took a quick glance at the mirror, and I don't think Hartley was close enough to me. I knew he was over there somewhere, so I stepped out, but we got together. So, that ended race 1. Still came in 10th, so somehow got 10 points with my steering sitting at 180 degrees. And then then I had a really, really rough qualifying for race 2. I think I was still a little bit mad at myself for making some mistakes in race 1. So after quali on race 2, I kind of just sat in my seat and tried to calm myself down as much as possible, and tried to just drive with focus rather than frustration or anger. And I'm glad I was able to calm myself down, because I really needed this race 2 win.
So you say you needed the race 2 win. I'm trying to figure out how I want to ask this question. Are you getting comfortable with the lead that you have, or is it never enough with Hartley closing in?
No, these guys, it's easy for me to tell because I'm on track with them, but man, everybody's elevating so much. Like Michael Borden, that guy's normally sitting like 8th through 10th. He was starting 2nd. Jonathan White caught both me and Jesse when we were working together. So John's killing it. Paul's getting faster like every single day. Chris Hen's bringing it. Like, these guys are all getting better very rapidly. So there's no comfortable at all. I feel almost like I almost feel like there's like a little bit of a panic going on, because these guys are finding all this time, and I'm just finding this little increments, and the racing's getting much closer and much more brutal, and you're just getting way more punished for any mistakes you're making.
Absolutely. So we head to the next round in a couple weeks, DJ. I think it's Road America coming up next. Plans for that race? How are you going to attack that one?
I'll just I'll get as much practice as I can, and just try to. I mean, that's one of my better tracks. So we'll see how that prevails. But then again, it's a draft track, so you have to play well and nice with people. So it looks like Robert had a really rough night, so sorry to see that. Maybe Jesse moved ahead of him in the points. So things are ratcheting up here in the SPEC MX-5 challenge here. This is it's getting pretty intense.
Intense indeed. DJ Alessandrini, another victory for him in the 2019 season. DJ, thanks for talking.
All right, thanks guys, as always.
Have a good night. All right, that's going to wrap up the interviews tonight, Finian, and we want to give out another thank you to Adam Brouillard for coming on board from Paradigm Shift and just walking us through some of the driving techniques. And of course, if you're interested in Paradigm Shift or learning how to race anything, anywhere, whether it be motorcycles, cars, sim racing, airplanes, I mean, I'm sure there's things you could probably apply to RC racing as well. Head on over to their website. The link is in the description. They have track guides and all sorts of really cool information. We want to thank Rick Motech for giving out race and season end prizes, as well as Winding Road and LevelUp Racing School for providing the prizes as well. Finian, final thoughts heading out of Road Atlanta.
Oh, honestly, two of the best races we've seen all season from this very round, especially race number 1. I think that was icing on the cake. I feel like you got a feel for Jesse Stevens. Was leading in both races up until the final 3 turns, and in both cases lost the lead there. So unfortunate for him, but I'm sure he'll rebound. Definitely one of the stronger drivers in the series. Absolutely.
That's going to do it for us tonight. From myself, Kyle Heyer, alongside Finian Dacuna, we're from SimTV over at youtube.com/SimTV Broadcasting. You can see us over there. We're doing an all-star race next week with all different leagues from iRacing, and we're going to get to see IMSA drivers Tom O'Gorman, Shelby Blackstock, Kenton Cook, all battling people that have never really raced professional drivers at any level like this before. So that'll be on our channel, youtube.com/SimTV Broadcasting, 1 week from now, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks again to the sponsors, and we'll see you in the next round here in a couple weeks.